Hey, and welcome to another episode of Breakthrough with me, your host, Tess Timmons. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and share this with a friend if it resonates with you. I want to talk to you today about state testing. Now, why should I care about state testing? I'm not in school, one adult may say, but are you a taxpayer? Are you someone who works in real estate? Are you living in a neighborhood and you wonder the quote unquote value of it? So, I'm going to talk to you today about state testing and why it should matter to everyone in the United States and not just parents of children. So as you know, I am a teacher, and this year I'm working as a curriculum specialist. I oversee 26 different middle schools, not by myself, but with a team. And I look at curriculum, I look at instruction, I help with assessment, and all of that kind of stuff. So the current district that I work with is focuses a lot on CASP testing and preparation for CASP, and utilizes a lot of the curriculum that is on the CASP website. CASP, what is she talking about? CASP, CAASPP in all capitals, is the California, sorry, I'm like getting comfortable, is the California state testing. So in the United States, every state has state testing, and this data that comes back from every single grade in school. I think in California, we have third graders that test, and then we have 6th, 7th, and 8th that test. And then we also have like 10th grade that tests. They test in math, in science, English, and I don't know what else, but I know that those core classes get tested. So those test results come back, and it takes some time. So the students are tested in usually April and May, and then that data is given around like August, September. I might not have that totally right, but August, the data is already stored with the schools, because when teachers come back for the new year, they examine that data with the principals. So the principals get that data, and also the state then houses that data and has it available for all. Now, when the state has that data available for all, who else should look at it, and why does it matter? Real estate agents look at this information, because when they are selling people homes, they want to one great thing that they can do when they're selling a house is they can say, this neighborhood is great. If you have children, hey, or if you are going to have children, right? This is a great neighborhood to live in. Their schools are wonderful. They have high testing scores. The students are smart, and you should, this is a great selling pitch for a real estate agent in knowing like where people should live, and who buys homes. A lot of people who are going to have children, right? I live in an apartment. I don't have kids. I don't need all that space. But like, I don't know, one day, a beautiful home in Santa Barbara with a large yard and a pool, I'm thinking about it. But so a real estate agent is looking at a lot of people who have children, who are going to have children. And so this is a huge selling component. So that's really important to understand. Now, when we look at schools and testing, you also are looking at, in some states within the United States, you're looking at funding. Now, this is completely different when we look at education and funding in different countries. For instance, and I know we project and compare this often, but in like Sweden, Finland, what have you, every school pays teachers the same, all the same. All the schools get the exact same funding. Now, one caveat that people could play against is the fact that, well, those are really smaller countries compared to the United States. They all have the same laws compared to the United States, where we have different state laws, right? There's a lot of excuses we could come up with. Rate of pay is different everywhere, right? So a teacher in Alabama is not making as much money as a teacher in California. A teacher in Colorado is making way more money than a teacher in, I don't know about Delaware, but definitely Georgia. In the South, they don't make as much. That's about voting, right? So if you don't vote for your teachers to earn high wages, then they don't have them. So that's a really important thing to understand about schools and school boards. If you have a school board that has always been there, they have a lot of wisdom, but they also can keep the rules the same. And if you have a superintendent and principals and a school board that are all the same, they can keep all the rules the same, which could be positive and negative. There's positive and negative to everything. I'm not saying one group is better than another. I'm just giving stated facts that are real. Sometimes they can continue to have the same laws and same rules applied. Why would I pour more money into teachers if I already am getting away with paying them this much? Why would I pay them more? Because it doesn't have to be an evil thing. It could be looked at as, if I pay my teachers this rate, then I can also offer field trips, excursions, after school care programs. So there could be a way of looking at that that's not a defeatist look, right? However, and yes, I have bias. I have been a teacher. Teaching is the toughest job I've ever experienced in my life. It's also highly rewarding. It's tough because you're carrying the weight of so much on you, right? And so I think that teachers deserve so much more of a salary than they're getting. I would love to see teachers in Alabama making the same amount as teachers in California. I would love that. What if homes were the same price everywhere? Realtors wouldn't like me to say that, but I wonder about these things. Okay, so when we look at state testing, we are also looking at like rate of pay at schools. We're looking at real estate and how they utilize it. We can look at state funding. So state funding could say, well, this school is scoring low, and therefore we need to pour more funding into this school to help it rise. Is that usually the case? Depends on the president, depends on the party, depends on their viewpoint. They could be looking at, this school is scoring low, they're crap. Let's house a whole bunch of charter schools and private schools around there because my kid's not going to go there, right? That happens. They could be saying, this school is scoring low, let's punish. Maybe we should fire those teachers. Maybe they don't know what they're doing. But sometimes schools are performing low because they don't have the funding. So that can be an issue as well. Okay. So if you're a taxpayer, this matters. Doesn't matter. I don't have kids. I don't have kids either, but it matters. Okay. So if I'm looking at a school that has low funding and low test scores, there's things going on there. First, we're looking at the fact that with low funding, they might have teachers that are all brand new. When you have first-year teachers, they are still learning how to craft the art of getting teenagers and young minds to pay attention to them. They're still learning how to hone that in. So a classroom can be a little bit chaotic. Doesn't have to be, but it might be. If I only have first-year teachers, they have not the wisdom around them, right? But you could have district people like myself. This year I'm a curriculum specialist, so I can go in and help support first-year teachers. I can go in and do a model lesson. We can co-teach together so that they're gaining these skills. There's programs at the current district I'm at, and at all sorts of districts, every district. There's state programs. When I was in my first 2 years of teaching, there was a BITSA program. So I had a woman who was not from my district at all. She was a college professor. She would come in and watch me teach. She would look over and review my lessons. I would have to write essays and reflections. It was that of a double master's program. And for the first 2 years of school, she was there to support me. So I had the principal supporting me. I had the head English chairs supporting me. If I was out of school that had an English chair, my very first year of teaching, I'm a bit unique. I built an entire program and ran a charter school. So I was the only English teacher. I mapped out and scope and sequenced all of the standards, curriculum, and everything. That's not common. Okay, but I don't play by the rules. I skip around. But usually a first year teacher would have a department lead there to help support them as well. And then you would also have other mentor teachers in your district and in your school site that support you as well. So there is a lot of support happening, right? We could also look at the fact that when a school has low funding, their equipment is older. Now I'm talking about like maybe their Chromebooks are broken, because I'll tell you what, parents should be watching this. This part is really important. And what I'm saying is not watching this episode. Yes, they should, but parents should be watching this part of equipment in their children. And if you're a taxpayer, pay attention, because this is your tax dollars. Currently, at many different schools and many different districts that I've worked at, teenagers are damaging their Chromebooks at a high rate of speed. They pluck and pull the keyboard keys off. They were, through watching TikTok 2 years ago, they were sticking metal pieces like a paper clip into their Chromebook because it was making it smoke. They put them in their backpacks and then throw their backpacks on the ground. So some of the destruction is on purpose, ripping off keys, stabbing metal into your Chromebook. That's on purpose. So that's damage. Some of the damage is not on purpose. They're teenagers. They have the Chromebook in their backpack. They throw their backpack on the ground because they have just come home, or they're in the gym and there's an assembly and they throw their backpack on the ground and sit down. A kid might trip over another kid's backpack and kick the Chromebook inside their backpack. So there's accidental reasons as well. But what I want you to realize is, when we buy this electronic equipment and we're giving it to a teenager, frontal lobe, not fully developed, they're breaking them a lot. And our tax dollars go toward Chromebook repair. So much Chromebook repair is happening with our tax dollars. So, parents have to sign an agreement with those Chromebooks that if they're damaged, that the parents will pay for the insurance on them or pay for a new one. I think that parents should make sure that their kid does chores in order to pay that money back to them. Don't just be paying for that. They're teenagers. They can handle it. And even a third grader should do chore money and work that off. I was working at a very young age. I started working at age 12. It's a good thing. Trust me. It's a good thing. They can learn the value. Okay, so when you're looking at a school that has low test scores, they might have a lot of damaged equipment. They might have really old curriculum. They haven't been able to afford new curriculum. They might be operating with old ideas because they're not able to afford to send their teachers to national conventions. This year I was in Denver. I went to the National English Teachers Convention. I paid for myself to go. I was investing in myself. I flew there. I stayed in a hotel. I purchased the 3-day event. The 3-day event alone was $700. I invested that in myself. So you want to look at all of those factors and understand, why is this school scoring low? So if I were a politician and a school was scoring low, I would go and visit that school. Go walk the campus. Go talk to the principals. A lot of our politicians, I've been working in the school districts for 13 years in California, and I have never seen a mayor or a senator or a congressman come into my schools. I would love for them to. So every mayor of every town should be walking schools all the time, right? Now, if you're a taxpayer, you can't just go walk into a school. Because of school shootings and things like that, we can't just have anybody walking in. But I think that if you are a taxpayer, you should definitely go to a board meeting. Anyone can go to the board meetings. Whether you have children or not, you are putting money into these schools. So you should help decide how things are going. If the board and the superintendent have been working together for a very long time and they're putting a lot of money toward the higher echelon of the district to fly places and go places, but their teachers aren't going anywhere, that's an issue. Like, why aren't their teachers going anywhere? Where are the books? Where is the money? Is it sitting at the top? Is it trickling? Is it a slow trickle, or are we spraying? Are we giving the money directly toward the students? That's what a taxpayer should ask. Is the money going towards students? Are you buying vehicles for the district special ed department, or are you purchasing more teachers? That's a real example at a district. That's a real example that has happened. So you want to look at taxpayers, where is the money going and how is it affecting education? Because it's money out of your wallet. Okay, so these are important things. So when we look at school testing, this year I was working a lot with students, and the cool thing about CASP is that they have lessons on there that students can work on to understand testing language. They can understand the tools of how to use the test, because the test has voice, so the test can read out loud to the student. The students go on and they click on different buttons, so they drag and drop different answers into charts. They also highlight different passages and showing which sentence should be revised. So they need to know how to like operate and utilize the tools on there. And then the students also write essays, and the students answer a lot of multiple choice questions. So as a taxpayer, here's what I want you to note. And I'm definitely, I've been researching all year about CASP, and now I'm contacting CASP. CASP hires teachers, and I'm interested in talking with them about this. They hire teachers to create the curriculum. And then I'm really interested in knowing like how it's scored. Now, teachers who work with them are all over the United States, and which means that they can create stuff and Zoom conference with each other. They don't have to be housed somewhere, right? So my next point of research will be looking at like, is there a headquarters? Is there a building that I can go and contact and communicate with? So when we're looking at the essays that the students write, when the students are writing an essay on CASP, which is the California state test. So you can look at this, and every state has a state test. So if you're watching this and you live in Georgia or Alabama or Delaware or Maine or New York or Colorado or Montana, you all have this. So it all applies. When they're writing an essay, they write the essay and it's on the computer screen. You can't copy and paste. You have to type it in yourselves. And the box that they write in is about the size of my phone. The box that they write their essay in. Now, when we are writing an email or on a Google Doc for a presentation as an adult, we have an entire Google Doc. We are able to see the screen very large, and we can type everything, and we can have our font at a 12 or a 14 so that it's very visible. So we can see what we just wrote, right? When a child, a teenager, is writing in a box this size, it is very hard for them because their essay is disappearing as they continue to write on the screen. This is important to understand. If I'm going to be grading a child's essay, their writing passage, whether it's a 5-paragraph essay, a paragraph, if I'm going to be judging how they cite evidence, how they come up with the claim, evidence, and reasoning, how they elaborate, how they develop their storyline, and the child can't see it, is that fair? No. If you're going to go around and say, this school district is producing smart children, live here, that's not fair, because every child should be able to see what they're writing. In order to develop my thoughts, I need to be able to see the proposal. I need to see the grant proposal. I need to see the essay. I need to see the article. I need to be able to review myself and look and see what I wrote. It's very hard to scroll back up and back down and back up and back down. So are we giving children a fair shot to express themselves? I say no. Next, when they're answering an essay, we are asking the student to reverberate thought. So we want to know what's the claim, what's the evidence, and what's the reasoning. There are 3 different types of essays that the students write. I'm going to get into multiple choice next. There are 3 different types of essays that they write. They can either write an explanatory, an argumentative, or a narrative. If they write a narrative piece, it's a story. They have to look at something first and they have to pull from it. So they might read 2 different passages that talk about Mount Everest. And so they are to write a story, and they are climbing Mount Everest, and they're going to make it to the top, and then they're going to come down to the bottom of the mountain. And they have to talk about their equipment, they have to have a conflict, and they have to have a resolution. Okay? Usually, the narrative test is given to English learners and students who are scoring low. Why am I saying English learners? English learners are wonderful. They might be scoring high. But if you're an English learner and you're just beginning to learn the English language and it's more difficult for you, you might score lower. Hey, if I just went to France and I've only been there for 3 weeks, you think I can write an essay in French? No, not yet, not in 3 weeks. But we expect a child to. So actually, if a student is new to America within the first, I believe, 6 months to a year, I think we are granted to not have to test them, which is good. That's a good rule. But usually a low-level learner, someone who, I'm not saying they're dumb. No, I'm saying they don't have the skills or the drive or the strive to learn. They're lacking, or they're having a harder time. They are given the narrative. A narrative to me is easy to write because I come from story, and I've been a writer since 2nd grade. I remember my teacher who told me, "You're a great writer." And I wrote stories about horses and this, that, and the other. And I've always had a very creative mind, but some people have more of an engineer mind, more of a data mind. And so writing a creative story can be tricky. Think about this. I just moved to this country, or I'm living in a city, and I'm being asked to write a story about Mount Everest. Do I know what Mount Everest is? Do I understand what climbing is, what a carabiner is, what snowshoes are? Maybe I live in Florida, Georgia. Have I ever seen snow in my life? So these are very difficult concepts that we are asking for real a 7th grader to accomplish, right? So if I'm trying to write an entire story about Mount Everest and I'm trying to learn what a carabiner is, it's very hard to do all of this on this small square, right? It's starting to get very complex. An explanatory essay is going to be one where they have to explain something, right? So explain about this president in the United States. And so they don't give any bias. They talk about the president, or they talk about Hershey chocolate or whatever, right? They're talking about how to, a how-to manual. So step-by-step instructions. That's usually given to like a student who is in the middle range. Now, a student who is scoring very high in the multiple choice, they are usually, like, the multiple choice is usually one day, and then they move into the essay. And the company ranking system off of the multiple choice then shoots out the essay to the students. So that part of a test is pretty cool, that it knows how to like read the students on their performance of the multiple choice, which is reading comprehension, and then it gives them an essay to write based on how they scored over here. So if they scored low on this, I'm going to give them a narrative because that's what I give the low score to. And if they scored mid on this, I'm going to give an explanatory because that links with that. Now, you would think that a low score on the multiple choice should pair with explanatory. Explain something to me is a lot easier than write a story about this historical time period, write a story about Mount Everest. That's actually high skill level. So that's one thing I would change about the state test is that if they score low, that it is linked and paired with explanatory. Because again, if I'm going to be judging districts in California based on this score, I want to know that it's judged fairly and justly. Okay, so That's important. And then when they get into an argumentative essay, one example, and this is just an example of one that we, I'm not giving away any secrets. Like this is a lesson that any teacher can use. It's not the CASP test. It's a lesson that's pre-planned on there that you're allowed to use. Then they talk about 3 different scenarios of something in history, and you have to synthesize it together. And then you lay out an argument of that thing. So you have to be able to read 3 different things or about 3 different people, synthesize the data, elaborate on how it has projected things forward, cause and effect, and then you're looking at also putting in an opinion, a bias argument about it as well. That's high level. And those are a lot of skills, but also, again, hard to do when I can't see my entire screen and see my full thoughts in motion. So I would change that as well. Okay. Now let's shift and look at the multiple choice questions. And this is all really important for a taxpayer to know, because we're pushing people out into the world after they have this education, right? And so what skills are they coming out with? Because that is our workforce, right? And so what skills are we coming out with? When we think about that in a minute, I'll talk about that after I talk about multiple choice. So when we're looking at multiple choice questions, the multiple choice questions are based on reading comprehension, and they're reading passages. It can also be based on research questions and stuff to that nature as well. So I was working with some students this year, and they were working on a lesson. So it wasn't the test, but they're lessons based off of the CASP website. So this is where they practice. And the 8th grade student was reading it out loud because I was sitting next to her and she was reading it out loud so that I could get a sense of her reading comprehension while she was reading. And this is some of the skills that I work with students. So she read the 3 paragraphs, and it was about dentures, teeth, fake teeth, dentures. And then she had to answer 3 to 4 multiple choice questions about dentures. Okay, let's get real. If I'm going to determine good neighborhoods versus not neighborhoods that you should move to, let's find stuff to test a student on that has interest, that is important, that is relevant, that would capture their attention. Because if I'm giving a student information that is boring, then how are they going to show great comprehension skills? Because come on, dude, these are teenagers. So I'm asking an 8th grader to read 3 paragraphs about dentures. I'm 47 years old. I don't want to read 3 paragraphs about dentures. Boring. I don't even want to read that. So, like, what kind of stamina are you trying to test about? That's dumb. So, can we have the student reading about DC and Marvel? Can we have the student reading about skydiving? Can we have the student reading about spelunking in a cave? Like, make it cool, make it interesting, put some pictures in there. Like, get with the times. Get with the times. Let's watch a video. You know what I mean? Like, let's do something better. So that's why, again, I'm saying I want to reach out to CAS. I want to make things better. So if that student is reading 3 paragraphs about dentures, snore fest, do they care that much about answering the questions? If they don't care that much about answering the questions and they're in 8th grade, like, let's get real. When I was in 8th grade, I didn't care about a state test. If I saw paragraphs about dentures, I'm going to guess on that part and move on to the next part. A teenager doesn't really have a lot of weight or care about that because they're a teenager. They don't see that this is a state test that represents good and bad neighborhoods and funding and where things go and how much we pay teachers and who gets to have brand new books and what town we tell people to move to and what town we tell people not to move to. See what I mean? It's not fair. Okay. Then I had a 7th grader, and the 7th grader was reading 3 paragraphs about, get ready, cursive writing. Okay. Come on. Cursive writing? First of all, people don't even teach cursive writing anymore. Secondly, why do I need to read about handwriting? Thirdly, yes, handwriting is important, but could you talk about the importance of handwriting? Such as when you take notes or when you write by hand or journal, you are moving short-term memory to long-term memory. So when you are taking notes on a subject, you are moving things from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. That's kick-ass. That's interesting. That's great. When I am journaling, I am weaving together my conscious and my subconscious. That's why when we journal, we have epiphanies. That's interesting. Teaching me about cursive writing through 3 written passages that are actually typed in a font and just telling me about cursive language. What's the point? What is the point of that? Let's consider the fact that what if I am a student from another country? I'm from Italy and I just moved to America, and I'm a 7th grader and I moved here last year, and I'm reading 3 paragraphs about cursive language. Maybe I don't even know what cursive is. And now I'm reading a passage about it, and then you want me to answer questions on it. I don't even know what cursive is. Okay, let's look at this. I am a teenager from America. I have been raised in America, and it's 2026, and I've never seen cursive language in my life because I'm 12 years old in 2026. I don't even know what cursive is. Why does it matter? It does not matter. It should not be on the test. Again, if I'm going to be looking at this is a good neighborhood, you should move here, no, you shouldn't move there, and I'm basing it on reading a passage about cursive, who's making this test, people? Who's making this test? Call me, because I will help you make a better test. Let's ask students what they think about diplomacy. Let's ask students what they think about ingredients in our food. Let's ask students what they think about AI, and not, here's an article on AI and I want you to tell me about AI. No, let's let students think. Let's let students show us what they think, what their ideas are. They're younger than us. They're fresher than us. They have great minds. Let's pull from their minds and find out, what's your solution for getting us off of fossil fuels? What's your solution for wind propellant cars? What's your solution for data centers? What should we cool them off with besides water? You know what I'm saying? Give them power, give them voice, give them choice. And let's pull great minds. We're looking at state testing. Let's look at state testing and pull and find great solutions. And then we can attribute it to that child. And then we can hold them up and say, look at what this great mind thought of. Look at what that great mind thought of. How cool is that? Let's move to all these neighborhoods. Let's fund all of our neighborhoods, because every child has great ideas. Every child should have great books. Every neighborhood should have great grocery stores and good food and access to health and paid teachers who are happy, because we want a happy teacher inside of a classroom with students so that no one feels threatened or sad or is treated kindly, right? Like, come on. Come on, it's 2026. So if you care like I care about all students, if you care like I care about your tax dollars, if you care like I care about neighborhoods, if you work in real estate, if you work in politics, if you are a parent, if you pay taxes, if you live in America, write to your congressman, write to your state representatives, write to people who can affect change, write to the Department of Education, write to your school boards, write to your local school boards, and let's create change. Let's do it. And If you know someone who works with CASP, send them send them my podcast. I want to talk to CASP. I want to work with them. I will be contacting them as well, because I'm not just trying to talk about somebody. I'm trying to create change. I want the world to be a beautiful place. We are having a breakthrough moment. We are having a breakthrough moment. And here we are. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe. Please send this to anyone who would have interest in this topic, because we should all have interest in this topic. Thank you. Thank you for watching.